Hey, what's up, guys? So it's been a while since you actually see me, excuse me, in the office. I think the last few weeks we did a video up on, on the top of a mountain, hiking, and then last week we were also at a car show, and this week we're back in the office. So just kind of, I guess, to cover or review what we talked about, we discussed on the top of the mountain, the hike, basically just visiting your dreams as much as you can. And what I meant by that was whether it's a nice car, nice house, whether it's vacation, whatever it is, as much as you can, try to experience that thing before you're able to afford it. So if it's, let's say, a nice car, for example, go to the Rolls Royce dealership, go to the Lamborghini dealership, sit in the cars. If it's a Mercedes, go to the dealership, sit in the car. If they'll let you test drive it, test drive them. If you can afford it, go on Turo, rent the car for a day, right? So as much as you can, get in that environment and just experience that. If it's maybe eating at a nice restaurant, I don't necessarily recommend really getting salads, but in the beginning you do what you have to do. So if you do have to go to Ruth Chris or Roy's and order a salad, just do it. Um, just go in there and order a salad, but you'll see the difference in the experience. And as far as traveling, I mean, obviously you're not just gonna pick up and fly to Australia to the Northern Lights if you don't have the money, but as much as you can, maybe take a small trip, day trip somewhere, right? Um, as your budget expands, maybe try experiencing first class when you fly, right? All those things just expose you to a different lifestyle, different experience, and you'll find that there's probably a lot of things that you do enjoy that does cost money, and they're not necessarily bad things. It's just you learn to deal without them because you couldn't afford it. And I think you'll find that as you experience those things, you'll go, well, I'm willing to work to be able to afford these things, basically. And then last week we did talk about at the car show. It was just another example of just touching your dreams. And for me, there wasn't really a lot of vehicles there that I really admired in a sense of I'm aspiring to one day be able to own them. But there were some nice cars that I was actually hoping to maybe see, like an Audi R8, McLaren, or Lamborghini, Ferrari. None of those cars actually showed up. It's just kind of luck of the draw. I guess the owners weren't feeling it that day, but they do come out sometimes. And there are a couple of those vehicles on the island. I think just the other day I was at the Cheesecake Factory here in Kapolei, and so those Lamborghini Huracan parked in the parking lot, just low key, nice smooth black one. So I was like, man, that's pretty cool. And the other thing about Hawaii is I've been to California. I think they're kind of similar, but Hawaii's exotic cars they really don't bring as much tension as they might in other areas because people here just don't care. So it's not to say that there's not some fans of it, but you're just not going to get the attention here that you would get in maybe some other markets or some other areas if you have, let's say, a Lamborghini or something like that. But anyways, that's just kind of like a short recap, or maybe a long recap, however you want to say it, of the past few weeks and what we discussed. So we talked about touching on your dreams, and then before that, we actually talked about the cost, writing down the cost and things like that. And then I would say the next step would be after you determine the cost, you started visiting to see, like, okay, was it really going to take um, to bring your dreams into reality? What job, what business, what skills do you need to develop to really be able to bring the amount of income in that you need to afford the lifestyle. Now, um, I don't want to blow your socks off or get too ahead of myself, but there's two ways that you can do this, and there's a certain way I recommend it, but obviously, it's your life, your choice, you do what you want. But the first way is you can find a way to make $250,000, $500,000, 750,000, and with that, you can spend and afford what you want, but you better keep making that 250,000 or that 500,000 or that 750,000, or else, you're gonna be like the Joneses, right? When things aren't going well for the Joneses, there's a for sale sign up or maybe a foreclosure sign up. Cars are getting repossessed, right? So that's one way to do it, is that if you're gonna continuously produce a 250,000, a 500,000, or $1 million a year, continuously for the foreseeable future, then you can go out and buy liabilities, i.e., cars, houses, take trips, things like that. What I recommend is learning how to invest. So, first, learning how to develop your skills to be able to earn a six-figure income, whether that's 250,000, 500,000, like I said, 1 million, well, that would be seven figures. But figuring out how to earn that type of income, and then once you've got to that level of income, you're obviously going to raise your standard of living some. I mean, if you're living in a one-bedroom studio, you're obviously going to raise your living some. But to try to minimize how much you raise your standard of living, I mean, you're going to make six figures. Obviously, you're going to drive some type of luxury sedan, but it doesn't have to be a Rolls Royce, right? You can get a Mercedes, right? Or if you, even nowadays, like the Hyundais, I mean, I got one. They're just as nice as the Mercedes, but they last longer, and the maintenance costs are not as high, right? Because the BMW, that could be 50 grand. Hyundai Genesis could be 50 grand, or I think now it's called like a Genesis G80 or whatever. But it's basically the same car. One's Korean, the other's German. But you look at the motors and the performance, and you drive them, you'll see it's not that much different other than the brand prestige, right? But with that BMW, every time you go to the dealership, you're going to bust out $2,000. With that Hyundai, you're not even going to go to a dealership. You're going to go, only time you go is you're going to get an oil change, and that's it. But there's not going to be all these warning lights and this light or that doesn't work or this service and that service. And, over the life of the car, you have to spend another 10, 20 grand to keep it up. Whereas that Hyundai or even the Lexus, right? Even Kia nowadays, they're building some very nice cars to try to change the perception of their brand. So they really got some nice cars out there for cheap. I mean, 40, 50 grand is not necessarily cheap, but cheaper than what their foreign brand competition would be, or who the competitor for that model would be, right? So, consider getting those type of vehicles. Consider maybe not moving into the nicest neighborhood that you can afford, but maybe one step down. And that's not to say that you're going to stay there forever, because you're not. But the idea is you want to make the six figures. You want to adjust your lifestyle just enough that, you're not, like I said, you're not sleeping in the studio, and you're not looking down through the floor of your car and you can still see the ground moving, right? But you want to save as much money as you can to be able to invest, right? And ideally, what you want to do is either invest in real estate properties, which I highly, highly recommend. And when I say property, I'm not talking about single family homes. I'm really talking about units, right? So maybe a quadruplex, at least a duplex, maybe a small apartment building, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 units, right? Maybe you're good with stocks, and you get certain stocks that pay out dividends, but ideally you want some type of investment where you put money in and then you receive an income or a return or a dividend on a regular basis, either quarterly basis or monthly basis, and then you use that income to pay for whatever it is that you want. So I'll give you an example. Let's say you figure out how to get to $500,000, right? You make $500,000 your first year, 2 years, you go, oh my gosh, this is the same amount of money, never made this much in my life. So now what you do is maybe you do get a slightly nicer apartment, right? Because you might be in sales, might be in business, there's a certain image to uphold, right? You maybe upgrade your wardrobe just a little bit, but again, buy stuff at the outlet, right? Don't go to Louis Vuitton yet. You know what I mean? Don't go to Armani and pay for a $10,000 suit yet. Don't go that far. Just get you a nice suit from Ross or TJ Maxx, whatever the place is, but shop at those type stores in the nice neighborhood, right? So don't go to the ghettos of LA, right? In the hood in Compton and shop at the discount store to try to buy your clothes. No, don't do that. Go to Beverly Hills and find the discount store where the rich people just, donate their clothes because they don't want them anymore. And they're still very nice quality. Get those clothes, have them tailored, spend a fraction of the price, but you still got the Balenciaga, you still got the Gucci, you still got the Hermes brand, and it fits you nice because you paid to have it tailored, but you didn't spend $10,000 for the suit, right? You might have spent $500 for the suit, right? And you kept the other $9,500. You feeling me? So once you do that, you put that $9,500, you start to put that money away, and then let's say you get a property. Let's say you get your 5 or 6 unit property that's gonna net you $1,000, $2,000, $3,000 a month after expenses, after you pay the mortgage on that building, and now you've got those tenants paying you $2-3 grand a month, and now with that $2-3 grand a month from that investment property, then you use that to go pay for, let's say, your S-Class Mercedes, right? Because that payment's gonna be $1,500 a month plus say a couple $300-400 a month in gas, depending on how much you drive. So let's say $2 grand a month out the door, but you getting $3 grand from your investment property, so you're still netting $1,000 a month even with your car, and you have an equity built up in investment property, right? So that's how you want to do it. And then you save that $500,000 income, you go get another property. Now you got 2 properties. Now you're netting $6K a month instead of 3, right? And you see how this domino effect goes, right? And then 5-10 years later, you got 20-30 grand coming in from your investments per month, right? After expenses. And now you living off of that, and you're still making $500,000 a year in income, or by then you're making $1 million because you've expanded, you developed your skills, you've gotten better. Now that's where you find yourself in another stratosphere, right? So, and that's where you have options, right? So that's totally different from just making the $500,000 every year and you're starting from zero. And then if your business doesn't work out, if your sales or whatever you're doing to make that $500,000, if that doesn't work out, you're back to zero. But now you have this $500,000 lifestyle you got to keep up with. That's what happens to a lot of people, especially when the economy turns, right? And it's going to happen. It's natural. It's just a part of life, right? The business is going to be great some years, maybe even for a whole decade, and then there's going to be some very lean years where the economy is just going to suck, and it might even suck for a decade, right? If you look at the Great Depression, 1930s, that technically lasted for 9 years, so 1930 through 1938, 39, almost 10 years, the economy was just stuck, right? So that's the cycle, and you want to be prepared for that, right? Because the thing you want to do is you want to make sure that as you're building this lifestyle, as you're developing your skills, you're learning how to really get to a nice lifestyle. You want to make sure that's sustainable long term, right? And I guess the best example you have is athletes, right? You don't want to be the athlete that gets drafted number 1, goes in, makes $1 million, tens of millions of dollars. Then, season 2, season 3, you blow out your knee, blow out your back, or whatever, you're injured, you can't play again, the contracts get cut, and now all of a sudden, you're back to normal, a normal person where you can't necessarily command a salary of $10-15 million a year anymore. But when you got that money, you went and bought a $10 to $15 million mansion. You see what I'm saying? And so if you did that, you set yourself up a failure, right? Because now, let's say your career got cut short, you just didn't know. You thought you were going to play for 10 years, you end up playing for 2, and hey, how's it going? Yeah, it's good. Janitor's checking. I'm here late night, so janitor's actually checking on the trash. Sorry about that. But let's say you did that and you went and bought $10 million mansion, and now all of a sudden you thought you were gonna play for 10 years, gonna play for 2. Now you got to sell that mansion possibly at a loss, right, to get out from underneath it. Now you only got 8, 7 million or whatever, but you had to dump all that just to pay off the mansion, just to clear your debt, and then now you're back at zero. Right, so that's what happens at many levels, and not just to athletes, to a lot of people in business as well. They're just not famous enough to make it on the news for you to hear about it. But trust me, it does happen. I think the closest example you could see is if you watch network marketing. So if you watch a company like Herbalife, Mary Kay, or any one of those network marketing companies, IML, whatever, just watch. You'll see people go from nothing to making 2, 3, 4, 500 grand in a year, maybe even $millions a year, maybe more. And for 2, 3 years they'll do it, and then all of a sudden 4 or 5 years later they're back out. They're out of the company looking for a new one. They're back to zero, right? I knew a lady here in Hawaii that was in network marketing. I think she said she was there for 10 years almost. She had a 6-figure a month income, clearing over $200,000 a month. And she said in 30 days, her income went to zero. Company got shut down for whatever reason. And she went from making, what's 200 something a month? That's what, almost $2.5 million a year, multi-million-dollar a year income, to zero, flat, in a month's time. So it does happen at all levels. So I just want you to realize that as you're making your plan to generate income, to learn how to make the 6 figures and 7 figures, start already thinking about what investments you want to do long term. And when I say long term, I'm talking 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 years. Because especially if you're only 18, 19, 20 years old, you got to think about it. If you're 70, that's 50 years from now. But you're still going to be going strong. If you look at people like Dan Pena, Bob Proctor, Warren Buffett, these men are in their 80s and still going. Well, Dan Pena is 74, but Bob Proctor's like 85 or something. He's still working, and not necessarily that they have to, but it just gives you an example of that. Yeah, probably possibly 50, maybe even 60 years from now, you may still be alive and still be working, and not. Obviously Bob Proctor is not doing it because he has to. It's because he loves what he's doing. He's enjoying it. And also probably more so nowadays is what's keeping him alive, right? He can't go sit at the house and just, kick the dog, else he'll pass away, right? But the point is, the investments you do now in 18, 19, 20, 21, you got to think these could be as long as 30, 40, 50 years, and you still may be around. So just something as simple as buying a house just for the land value and holding on to it for 40, 50 years. What would it be worth, right? So you really got to be thinking about that and use the power of compounding, use the power of time to your advantage to know that even just the smallest investments, 500, 1,000, 10,000, 20,000, that you would have blown anyway going to spring break for a week, or or that you would have blown anyway trying to get the 5 Series BM versus the 3 Series, or the bigger motor, right? Because you just got to have it. Or, like you said, you got to have the Armani suit when you really could just drop that $9K in one stock and just forgot about it, right? In 30, 40, 50 years from now, it might be worth millions of dollars. And you just bought that one stock that one time, right? So just start thinking about the investment, start looking at it. And you don't need necessarily be an expert. I don't think anybody necessarily expert, but just have an idea of what stocks are, what is Forex, what is real estate, what is fix and flipping, what is buy and hold, what's the BRRRR strategy. It's like buy, renovate, refinance, well, rent, refinance, and repeat, right? And all these different things, which are basically, I would say, timeless strategies, at least in the current economy we're in. It's been, people been doing it for the past 50 to 100 years, and it's going to be here for the foreseeable future. So be aware of those things and know how you can take advantage of them. All right. So maybe I might do another video, just kind of explain the different methods. Maybe I did a video on investing, but just got some feedback from my sister. She's y'all's age. She's 18, and she's like, "Oh, I'm not really thinking about investing right now." She says, "I just want to know how to make some money. What should I do now that I graduate high school?" So I tried to dial it back for you guys. But at the same time, I want to lay the path out for you so that you can see where you're headed, because I think that is an issue, is that no one's talking to you about investing. No one's talking to you about what to do with your money. And so as you start entering the workforce, or you start actually making some money, you become a consumer before you're able to save any appreciable amount of money when you have the least amount of bills, right? Because when you're single, you don't have a wife, you don't have a husband, you don't have kids. You could live in a box, you could live in a car, you could live with mom and dad, family, friends, you could share a place, and you could really keep your cost of living low and still make, 100, 200, 300, 400, $500,000 when you're 19, 20 years old without much penalty for that. And you don't necessarily have that luxury when you are, let's say, 30 years old. You have a wife, you got a kid, couple kids, or you're taking care of mom, dad who's older, maybe sick or something like that, right? You don't have the luxury to just have a roommate and pay for a bedroom, right? You don't have the luxury to just sleep in your car and shower at the gym if that's what you need to do, right? You don't have that luxury because you got people counting on you at that point. And your cost of living is a lot higher too, because now you can't stay in a 1-bedroom shack. You need a 3-bedroom apartment or house, right? So while you're young, I think it's a lot easier to save 5, 10, 20, 30 grand and invest. And like I said, on top of that, when you think about, even if you're just 21 years old, you're talking about till 60 or 65, you're talking about a 40-year time frame. And if you putting 5, 10K away in, I want to say almost any stock, but any company that's going to last, I think maybe Amazon will be here 30, 40 years from now. I don't know about Walmart, but I think Amazon will be here. I think Facebook's here to stay. Instagram, I think that's here to stay. Coca-Cola is definitely here to stay. But you look at companies like that, McDonald's, that's going to be here for the next 30, 40, 50 years. Coffee, Maxwell House, coffee's going to be here. Starbucks, that's going to be here. So you think about companies like that and what the opportunity is. You just go online and Google some of these company stocks just 20, 30 years ago and see what it was, and then see what you would have today if you just would have left $10,000 in there 20 years ago. Even 10 years ago for some of these companies, right? And you can think about now from 20 to 60, what you'll have, it's ridiculous. And I'm saying that with not even including the amount of money that you're going to make and enjoy while you're living your life up to 60, right? That's just money you put aside that you were going to blow away anyway, 5, 10,000, you just going to spend on a little trip to Cancun or whatever, right? So I really want to talk to you guys and get that through your head to say, hey, it is something you need to pay attention to. And no, you don't have all the time in the world thinking, okay, well, when I'm 25, when I'm 30, I'll figure it out, or maybe when I'm 40 or 50. No, you need to be doing it as soon as possible so that you could use time to your advantage, because over 30, 40 years, unless a company goes bankrupt, you're going to be hard pressed to lose money by buying its stock and holding on to it for 40 years. If that company's still around 40 years from now, you're going to have 100x the amount of money that you bought it for. Seriously. Look at, and then same thing with real estate. Look at any piece of real estate. It's 2019, so 40 years ago would be what, 1980s? You know what I mean? Like, look at the 1980s. Look at property value then. You could buy anywhere in America in the 1980s. Doesn't matter where it was. And then look at the value of that property now, especially in any type of emerging market, like where there's jobs and stability in an economy. You can't buy the house or the value of, you can't buy that land for that price anymore. Period. Can't, because of inflation. So I just want you guys to really take this to heart and understand that yes, you may not have multiple millions of dollars to invest, but even $5,000, $10,000 with a long time frame, 30, 40 grand, I'm sorry, 30, 40 grand, 30, 40 years is going to make you a fortune. All right, guys. So with that, I'm gonna let you guys go. It's getting late here. I'm actually here at the office late, but just wanted to make a video for you guys so that you could just know what the next steps are in your journey. And I shall catch you guys next week. You know, by the way, please like my video, subscribe, give me feedback on what you want to talk about, on your thoughts on the video, any questions you have. Because I'm here to help, and I'm an open resource for you guys, and I'm always going to give you the real deal, no sugarcoating. You know, I don't necessarily have a course to sell you. I don't have a book that I'm pushing or anything like that. I just want to see you guys successful, and truthfully, I'm looking for the younger version of myself that I can help, you know, because this is information that I wish I had access to when I was 18, 19 years old, because I know I'll be a lot further along than I am today. And I'm not necessarily in a bad place, but I just know I'll be a millionaire already, just with the information that I know now, had I known it when I was younger. So just trying to shortcut the process for you guys. Obviously, you always got to do the work. Always you guys put in the time and apply it. But yeah, here to help. All right, guys, take care. Till next week.